Hey y'all, welcome to today's video. My name's Audrey Marie. Welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna be starting another reading vlog for y'all. I've been working through City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. I have gotten very far. I'm over 400 pages through this book and I am loving the book. I have had to put off finishing this book for the past couple days because I wanted to give you updates. I didn't want to finish this book without giving you my thoughts and my feelings about this book because I'm loving it so much. It is absolutely amazing. I'm enjoying the dynamics and all the questions that is happening throughout this book, and it's just so good. I thought there was going to be more of her being at school at her academy, but with what's going on with her, it completely makes sense as to why it's not the focus, and we're not getting a lot of her being at the academy, so it's making sense for the storyline. It would be cool to understand more about what she's learning for her degree, but I'm really loving the characters in this. We've gotten some heated moments between Lauren and Darian. I am loving it. And whenever I opened this book to start it, I didn't realize there was artwork of the characters. There's the front. We got Lauren there. And then we got Darian in the back. I did not know that even when I bought this, that there was artwork in them. So I'm loving this. I'm excited to get further into it and see what's going on because there's been constantly people trying to get Lauren, and finally her friend has escaped, has gotten away from the bad guys, but we're still trying to figure out what's going on, what the final goal is. I'm curious to see how the book ends and what the conclusion is of the book and the relationship between all these characters. Because supposedly Lauren's human and mortal, but with everything going on, are we sure she's just a human? Are we sure? And there was a comment from Darian earlier about putting in a good word for her at another academy or another college in town for the exact same thing she's studying. I'm curious to see if that will happen. I have a good feeling that is actually gonna end up that way, where she's gonna separate herself from her sister, not biological sister, but from her sister and her best friend, because stuff is changing and the dynamics between all the characters is changing, and there's been different species of supernatural are trying to fix what's going on, and there's been some moments where stuff has gotten very important and could cause one of the entire species to have an issue with one another. So they're dealing with all that because of something that happened in the book, and dynamics changing. I'm enjoying Darian's familiar as well. That's funny. And then also the Hob helping Lauren with knowing when Darian's having his surge. What is going on there? Because she was able to help him, but supposedly no one can help. Something's going on and I'm beyond curious. We gotta figure out what's going on, why she's the way she is and could do something that humans are not supposed to be able to do. So I'm loving every single moment of this. Definitely hitting the spots of what I needed for right now. It's not just the simple, oh, he's ignoring me, or he said something that I don't like. And it's just contemporary. No, I'm enjoying the supernatural side of this because it's giving me more information and more challenges and depth into the story. So I'm enjoying this. I cannot wait to finish this book and see where everything goes. Like it's giving me dark academia, but also city vibes as well. And I'm enjoying these vibes. It's definitely different. Reminding me of instances of the Crave series, but very different. What I'm enjoying about this is that it's not the typical fantasy where you're completely thrown into a new continent, having to learn so many different things. This one is kind of more modern. I like the typical fae where you're thrown into this town that has no cell phones and no communication with one another. It's kind of like a mafia supernatural vibe, if that makes sense. I'm really enjoying it because I've gotten into some dark romance, and I like the high stakes that are in some of the dark romances. It's ticking all the boxes that I've been looking for, so I'm enjoying it. So far, I finished City of Gods and Monsters, and I love this book so much. I really enjoyed my time while reading this book. I love the relationship between the two characters, between Lauren and Darian. so sweet between the two of them. Honestly, going into this, I thought the series was gonna be different couples, and I'm happily surprised that it's gonna be just Loren and Darian for the rest of the series. At least I think it said to be continued on the last page, so I'm happily gonna continue the series because I could not get enough. I will say certain things of the story was a little predictable, but it didn't ruin my experience with the book. I did think that sometimes the characters could have been a little bit smarter regarding certain puzzles, certain riddles that were said, but I've also read so many other fantasy books where there's just always a human in this fantasy world and they're the main characters. There's something there that is not all adding up that is going to get revealed later on in the book regarding the true identity of the main character. In this artwork, there's this ghost figure of a dog, and I was wondering throughout the entire book, up into the last little bit of this book, I was happily surprised that we finally got the reveal as to this character, because Darian has a familiar and its bandit does not look like this one here. So we finally got that reveal and I'm so happy. I was almost in tears there for a little bit regarding some stuff, and even though certain parts of it were a bit predictable, certain parts of it I was completely shocked by certain plot twists, and I was happily surprised with how shocked I was because I was not expecting the twists and the turns of this book, especially the ending. Just so much got revealed, and I'm so happy that I picked this book up and was able to read it. I am so excited to continue into this world, into the series. There's still questions that I want answered, so I'm excited to pick up the next one. So excited. I had an amazing time reading this. Even the audiobook I absolutely loved. I noticed that the audiobook would have like extra sentence or a descriptor instead of what was in the text, so it kind of confused me a little bit whenever I was doing the reading at the same time. I was a little confused, but it wasn't too bad. I wouldn't have known any better if I just listened to the audiobook, but while I had the book open in front of me while I was reading it, I was like, oh, some of the stuff doesn't add up. And they used an acronym for the police, but in the audiobook they actually said police officers instead of the acronym, which makes sense. So it didn't take away from my experience. I'm not complaining about it at all, but I just wanted to make that point that I noticed. I'm excited to continue the series and see where all the friendships and the relationships go from there. The two of them get into the relationship in this book, so I'm curious to see where the series goes from here, because they're a couple now. They had some back and forth throughout the book, but it was so good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed how it wasn't like a fantasy where they're in cottage and they actually have guns and they have clubs and whatnot instead of being at old fairy tale tavern, old village. First book of May, read and completed. So now I get to choose what I read next, and I might have started a book, or some books actually. I'm finally getting into Pride and Prejudice. I'm so intrigued by this. I'm at chapter 11, so I've gotten about 50 pages through this book already, and I'm intrigued. I will say I'm getting a little confused with the characters, just a tiny bit, because I'm listening to the audiobook at the same time as I'm trying to read it, and sometimes that's a little hard for me to do at the same time, specifically with this one, and I don't know why. But I'm a little confused with certain characters, and I think as the storyline goes, I'll put two and two together and finally have the dots connected with all the characters, so I'm just gonna give it some time. It's a classic. I wanted to be able to mark off another little square on my top 100 books little poster I have. So I got this one, and I'm excited to continue and to see if the other Jane Austen books that are on the little poster will be the next ones I read, or I will continue the Anne of Green Gables series maybe, or pick out of some of the other classics that I have on hand from high school so I can read those instead. I don't really have any review of it as of yet because I'm just trying to grasp all the connections between the characters and pick up all the info that is just being dumped onto us. The wording and the writing style is very different from what we read nowadays, so it's taken a lot of my brain power to read this, but I'm enjoying it. It's just like a little, not palate cleanser, but just something different than I normally read. I'm excited to continue this. And the other book I started at the exact same time is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I love the first book, which is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Love that book. That is the first book that I actually tabbed up and wrote in. So I put this one off until I was able to sit down and really enjoy this and have my brain not fully stressed out about school. So I took some time to allow my brain just to chill. So I'm finally in the depths of this one. I got very far within the last probably 12 hours because I started it last night and I did not sleep very well. And I woke up at 4 a.m., 4 a.m. So I listened to the audiobook of this before I finally was able to get up out of bed by 8 o'clock. But I did get to chapter 22, page 152. I'm really enjoying it. The ending of the first book set this one up to be very different from the first one, and the dynamic between the two characters kind of just restarted itself, I would say. They still have the tension from the first book, but something happened at the end of the first book that completely changed their dynamic between the two of them. And we will have to see how they go about it and answer all the burning questions. I am so intrigued. I got so stressed at a certain point and my heart was beating 1,000 miles per hour, and I'm just loving every moment of it. It just feels like I'm back into one of my favorite books. It's very different from the previous book, so I'm wrapping my head around that while I'm reading this. I love the trials in the first one. This one doesn't really have any trials at the moment, but just a lot of unanswered questions going on and just a lot of politics that the first one didn't really have up until the ending. So this one's very politics driven. I cannot wait to continue. I love Rain, I love Araya, two amazing characters. But these are the two books that I'm currently reading. So I'm excited to give you updates on these as I get further in both of them. Alright, I am making so much progress in this. I've read about 100 and something pages. I don't 100% know the last time I gave you an update where I was at exactly. But now I'm at chapter 44, page 328. I have made so much progress. This is ridiculous. I just want to constantly read. Plot twists are happening, tension. I stopped reading when things were finally getting interesting between Araya and Rain. I'm so excited to be continuing. You have no idea. If you open the book and see where I'm exactly at, you'll know why I am like, oh my god. I hope everything works out and I'm not just overreacting, because I could be overreacting and something causes everything to derail. But right now I am ecstatic what's going on in the book. I am eating it up. I know something big just happened that changes a lot, but I'm intrigued as to where it's gonna go from here. I'm interested to see how they deal with everything that's now going on in their kingdom and seeing how they'll solve all the issues that have arose. And I'm loving every single moment of this. I'm glad Araya finally voiced how she was feeling about a decision Rain made for her at the end of the first book, and he finally was like, oh my god, I didn't realize she was dealing with that and now I feel so bad. So he's aware that his decision did impact her more than he thought it would, and that she constantly thinks about it and dreams about it and can't get that image out of her head. I don't blame her at all. I'm loving everything about it. Likewise with, I know previously in this video, I made a comment about how this one had a human in it, and of course a lot of the books have humans in it in a world of supernatural and whatnot, and obviously when you're reading it you're like, oh, she's human, but why is weird stuff happening? But also she's the FMC, so something is gonna be different regarding her. Most books aren't just gonna have a random human in a supernatural world. There's going to be something massive or different about her. Same thing with the Crave series. Something's different about her. You don't know what, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. Don't get me wrong, I love when the books have that set up because it makes it interesting and you're engaged and you want to figure out at the same time what's going on and why there's possibly different. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm just going to say that. I am eating this up. I love Araya. She is so smart. And the way her father raised her makes sense for what he was dealing with and whatnot. But it just sucks now that she's finding out all these answers. I haven't been tabbing this one up, even though I'm loving it so much. It's just a different setup and a different atmosphere. There was just something magical about the first one that just spoke to me. This one, I think it's just all the politics, the dynamic change of everything in this world. So I'm enjoying it. Very different from the first. And don't get me wrong, it's so good. I finished Ashes and the Starcursed King, and this was so good. I am so happy I was able to wrap up Rain and Araya's storyline. I thought the entire series was about these two characters, so I was so excited. But the ending of this one, I don't think it wrapped up everything 100%, so that's why it's able to have more books in this story and in this world. With leaving something open, I'm not 100% happy with the ending of this book, but for Rain and Araya's story and plot, it comes to a good ending. This was so good. You were constantly getting more and more information that you had questions about revealed throughout this book. Something about this writing is it just calls to me, and so I breezed through the ending of this. I was over at my boyfriend's place and he was trying to sleep, so I just put my earbuds in and listened to the audiobook, and I cranked out the last 4 to 5 hours. I'm so happy I was able to pick up this series. I will not be buying the novellas. I might find the novellas on Libby or Hoopla to listen to them, but I can't dish out the money to pay for tiny little novellas. So I'm just gonna leave getting the big chunky books for my collection. That's the same idea I have towards the Shatter Me series. I haven't read any of the novellas. I just read the main storyline, and if I really want the novellas, I can find them online. I'm so excited to continue. The next 2 books, I think, are about Misha. So I'm excited for her storyline. I'm so curious of what her story is going to be about, because in the ending, she was talking about traveling once again, even though Rain was settling down, which makes sense for her, even though 2 of them are always together. The world is so magical, and Araya and Rain are just so perfect for one another, in my opinion. And Rain doesn't baby her or treat her like she's not strong and she can't hold herself. And whenever they needed to part ways for them both to do their own thing during the big climax of the story, even though it was hard for one another, it was acknowledged in the book that both of them were fighting against the urge to basically tell them to stay with them. They were able to separate themselves and go and do what needed to be done for the instance that was happening. It was just so good. I love Rain and Araya. They will stick with me. I did not have this one like the first one, so I do think the first one's a little bit better, but I really did enjoy this book. I will recommend this story for anybody who's looking for a good fantasy book to get into. First one was all about the trials. This one was very politics driven, and you were introduced to all these different characters and a completely different vibe than the first one. You do have to recognize that this one will be different because of what happened at the end of the first one. I love how the books are split up into little parts, and it's by the moon phases. So I always find that interesting. And then it has a little interlude and it gives like a little storyline, but it's completely different than the rest of the book. And it's always interesting listening to it. It takes you out for a second for you to listen to this little story, and then it brings you back in to the rest of the story. It's so interesting that the author decided to do that. I did notice whenever I was reading this, while I was listening to the audiobook and reading the physical book at the exact same time, I did notice that even with this one, they also had it where certain things were not really left out, but like tweaked a little bit for the audiobook. I don't know why books do that, so if anybody knows why they do that, leave me a comment, because I'm so intrigued as to why they change little things from the actual text to the audiobook. That is so intriguing to me. So if anybody has the answer to that question of mine, please leave a comment below, because I'm so intrigued. I'm really curious about that, because I noticed it in this one and I noticed it in City of Gods and Monsters, so I'm curious about that. But highly recommend this book. Seriously, so good. Yesterday was my birthday and I went book shopping and I got some exciting books. I have been in a little bit of a darker vibe mood for some weird reason, and I'm so excited. I got the free little tote with my Barnes & Noble membership, so that is exciting. I have a massive collection of these and they keep growing every year. I got 3 books. They're all very important regarding some of the series I've been reading and a couple books that I've been meaning to get to for a while. But the first book I got is Kill Switch by Penelope Douglas. This is the 3rd book in the Devil's Night series, and I'm so excited to get to it. I've read the first 2, and I've been looking for this one for a good while now, and I just kept putting it off. But I finally bit the bullet and finally got it because I had the gift card. And I was looking at my shelves and I was like, what series do I need to continue to wrap up, because I'm in the middle of so many series. It's a bit of an issue. So I got this to get closer to wrapping up this series that I've been in the middle of for a good while now. This one's about Damon and Winter. I don't really know a single thing about the book. I literally just know that I love the first 2 books in the series, so I'm excited to continue because I liked all the characters. But it says, one woman's worst fear comes to life. Sending Damon to prison was the worst thing Winter could have done. It didn't matter that he committed the crime or that she wished he was dead. Winter thought he'd cool off in jail and become anything but the horror he was. Or that, at the very least, she'd have time to disappear before he got out. But she was wrong. 3 years came and went too fast, and prison only gave him time to plan. And while Winter anticipated his vengeance, she didn't expect this. He doesn't want to make her hurt. He wants to make everything hurt. Damon knows he needs to get rid of Winter's father, giving Winter her sister and her mother nowhere to run. The Ashby women are desperate for a knight in shining armor, but that's not who's coming. It's time Damon took control of his future. It's time he showed them all that he will never stop being the nightmare they think he is. Damon won't have to break into Winter's home to do it. As the new man in the house, he has all the keys. I'm so excited. After reading that, I'm excited. This is the vibe of a book that I've been looking for a while now. So that is the first book that I got, and I'm so excited to get to it. The second book I got is continuing the vibes of The Kill Switch. But I got Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. I am so excited to get to this. I loved Butcher and Blackbird. That book was so good. I was kind of surprised at how much I loved that book and how many plot twists that really surprised me and really got me engrossed in the story. I loved the 2 characters. And I also loved the characters that are the main characters in this one, in the first one. So I'm excited to get to this. I'm so curious of everything, and you got a little bit of a glimpse of the dynamic between the 2 in the first book. So I'm excited to get to this one. It says, an enemies to lovers dark romance comedy packed with danger, chaos, and heat. After contract killer Locking Kane botches a job for his boss's biggest client, he knows he'll never claw his way out of the underworld. At least, not until songbird Lark Montague offers him a deal. Hunt down a killer and she'll secure his freedom. The catch? He has to marry her, and they can't stand each other. Indie songwriter Lark is the sunshine that burns through the darkness Lachlan Kane tries to hide behind. Lachlan might think Lark is just a privileged princess, but the truth is that she keeps plenty of secrets. With her formidable family in a tailspin and her best friend's happiness on the line, Lark's willing to make a vow to the man she's determined to hate, no matter how tempting the broody assassin might be. As Lachlan and Lark navigate the mission that binds them together, it becomes impossible to discern their fake marriage from a real one. But the restless ghosts left in their wake are only a few steps behind, ready to claim more than the newfound love. There's another phantom lurking on their doorstep, and this one has come for blood. I'm so excited to continue the series. I've been meaning to buy this for a while now, and I've only heard so much good stuff. Even on my TikTok, somebody commented while I was reading Butcher and Blackbird. They were like, you have to read the second one. It is so good. Here you go. I finally got it so I can read it because I'm so excited. I love fake marriages. Even though sometimes I'm just like, oh my god, you guys need to realize you guys actually like one another and just not think that y'all hate one another. So I know there's going to be a lot of back and forth throughout this book, so I'm so excited. That is the second one. Can you see a theme? I was in a dark vibe book while I was buying these books because I ran out of all my dark romances. I've read every single one of them. And I've just been cranking out my fantasy because I need something other than just fluffy contemporary romance at the moment. So dark romance and fantasy is what I'm reaching for at the moment. And last but not least, this is one book that is technically a new series, but it's in the same world of another series I absolutely love, and that is Six of Crows. I've heard such amazing things about this duology. I cannot wait to get to it. I am so excited. I know that the Shadow and Bone series on Netflix has Shadow and Bones and this one interconnected with the 2. So I watched the first episode of the TV series and I stopped because I want to read this before I watch the TV series, because even though from what I've heard, I know that this series timeline wise is after the Shadow and Bone series in the books, but in the TV show they kind of mesh them together. So I'm excited to get to this one. I have the first book in Nikolai's little duology as well. I got that one a good while ago and I've been wanting to get to this one so I can start his. Nikolai was one of my favorite characters in the Shadow and Bone series, so I'm curious to see if he'll pop up in this one or he's not gonna and I have to wait for him to pop up again whenever I finally read his series, but I'm so excited for this. I've heard only amazing things about this duology and this world, a bustling hub of international trade where anything can be had for the right price, and no one knows that better than criminal prodigy Kaz Breaker. 6 dangerous outcasts, 1 impossible heist. Kaz's crew is the only thing that might stand between the world and destruction, if they just don't kill each other first. I'm excited. I've seen a little bit of fan art online. I don't think it spoils anything. I got a dark vibe going on. I know Six of Crows is a YA novel, but it still goes together. I kind of feel like the heist and the criminal stuff going on is like a darker vibe, so it all fits in together. I am so excited to jump into these books and see what they're all about and add them to my collection, continue in series, and continue in a world that I absolutely love. So I'm so excited to get to all of these books. And I had an amazing birthday. Shout out to my lovely boyfriend. Even though I had a headache that turned into a migraine later in the day, he made the day absolutely amazing. While he was at work, I got to sleep in, and after he came back, we went to go get his outfit for a wedding that we have this weekend to go to, and we then went book shopping, hence the new books, and then he took me out to dinner to this amazing ramen place. I got my ramen that I wanted, he got his pizza that he wanted because they were joined together. It was so good. So I just wanted to shout out my boyfriend for the amazing birthday I had. So thank you. But that is my entire birthday book. In my previous videos, I bring you along for my last 2 weeks of college. And I mentioned in the very end of the video that I have my thesis book ordered, and I'll show you all it. And it came in. I am so ecstatic about this finally coming in. It is so cool. My entire project all in one place physically, and it's just so special. Willow Haven, I did a multi-facility animal care campus. I was focused on the design of an animal shelter mostly, changing it into a sanctuary design instead of just the typical institutional style that we have for shelters typically. I'm so happy that it came in, and it's just perfect. Some of my images that I took from online on some websites came out a little blurry, but that's to be expected, and I was a little worried about it myself. But most of the images are phenomenal, and I even went through and found professional photos online for throughout the entire book. So this one was from just a random website talking about a shelter, and then these two were professional photos that I was able to find high quality for. And even though they're so close together, you cannot really tell a difference between the two. It's just phenomenal. Same thing with these two. This was just from a website, and this one was a professional photo. And then, of course, I had to shout out my dogs, and even in the end, I have a little thank you page. And I mentioned Willow specifically being part of the inspiration. It literally goes, I also want to acknowledge my dog Willow, who inspired the heart behind the project and gave Willow Haven its name. Willow is a big part of my life, and her name just fit the project perfectly. But all my renderings came out so pretty. It is just perfect. Look at this. Look at that render. Willow is right here, and Phoebe's right there. And then here's my cat cafe design, or cat cafe render. Here's my sections. It just looks so phenomenal, so professional, because I was even able to take this to a job interview because it came in the day before, and it was just perfect timing because they wanted drawings and whatnot, and all my drawings have some form of color in them. I don't have a colored printer here, so I need to go buy one or figure out what to do. I don't know. But normally I send my portfolio to firms or to companies as a PDF, so they can just do that easiest, because my entire background on all my pages are a dark blue. And we tried printing it out, and the printer ran out of blue ink, and they just replaced it. So we're not gonna try that again with any of our stuff, because it's just gonna run out, because I put a lot of color into my portfolio because it looks cool, but it just does not work with the printers that we have here. But this is so cool, like the front and the backs. So cool. My name's on it, the year. This is an accomplishment of my own, and it's gonna get added to my collection of stuff from Ball State now. So with that now out of the way, for me giving you an update on that, on my book, I can now show you the book that I finally started and now reading. And that is Kill Switch by Penelope Douglas. I made a bit of a dent in it, and I could have gotten even further, but I need to give you an update, and my schedule hasn't really allowed for me to give you an update and feel comfortable recording. Anyways, I started Kill Switch by Penelope Douglas. I'm also listening to it as an audiobook because I have it now, and I could have breezed through it. I liked how Penelope introduced us back to the characters in the story and in this world, because it's been a while since I read the first two, and I needed a little refresher on the connections between the characters. So that was good, because Winter's a bit of a new character, so you're trying to figure out more information about her, and you're even getting more of Damon's background of his life and experiences and how they knew each other before the present day of the story. So you're getting a lot of back and forth of timelines. And I was a little confused as to what was going on with Winter not being able to see very well. I was like, is she blind? But earlier in the book, in the past, she was able to see what happened, what's going on. So we still don't 100% know what caused her to go blind, but we get little bits and pieces here and there explaining how she can put two and two together and how her senses are overhauled here and there. Because there's the saying, if one sense is not usable, the other senses are heightened. So that was even mentioned in the book, which is interesting. And also, it's interesting to see how some of her senses could be tricked because of simple switch of a sweatshirt. Because Damon grabbed, I think it was Kai's hoodie at one point, and he put it on, and it kind of disrupted her smell of Damon because he has a distinct smell, and it kind of threw her off. And she didn't know it was Damon whenever it was him. But she doesn't know what Damon looks like now, and there's instances where it would freak me out knowing or not knowing if someone was around me and I couldn't see them, and you could hear something happening and your brain's trying to justify, oh, maybe it's just like the wind blowing. No, there's somebody standing behind you or just watching you and you don't even know it. That is kind of terrifying, and I hate that. So there was a part where Winter was dancing because dance is very important to her, and you come to find out that she was being watched by Damon the entire time. And if I was Winter, I'd be a little violated and exposed because you didn't realize somebody was watching you the entire time. And then something just happened between Damon and Will, and I was a little uncomfortable for that. I literally, during the entire audio of that, because I was listening to it, I was just like, oh, I didn't know we were gonna get into that. It kind of alluded to them having a weird or a bit of a different relationship with one another, but I was just like, oh, I was not expecting that. I hope it does not continue much more throughout the rest of this book or even into the next one. Maybe it won't, I don't know. I was just a little uncomfy with that. I understand a lot of them have gone through a lot of stuff, and they find ways to mask the pain and whatnot that they're in, but yikes, that was weird for me. I just hope that doesn't continue throughout the rest of this book, or even to the next one, because the next one is Will's book. So we'll have to wait and see. I am enjoying some pieces of it. I like the cameos of the previous characters into this book because I loved those characters so much. Damon was not my favorite of the previous two, but we also didn't get a whole lot of Will in the previous two either, because the group of four is typically broken up into duos. And so Michael and Kai were the first duo, and now it's Damon and Will, so we'll probably see more of the two of them together. So we'll probably get more of Will's background in this book, which is interesting. But we got bits and pieces of Damon from Banks' point of view in the previous book, so you're kind of feeding off that. So it was a good introduction to Damon and his past in the previous book. So you got to see it from Banks' point of view. So you got bits and pieces of it, but you didn't get the whole picture. But now that you're in this, you get to see it fully from Damon's point of view. So I'm enjoying it. Stuff that was kind of talked about in the previous books get talked about in this one again. So, and more than depths in Damon's point of view. So you're getting all the details. They all have fucked up pasts. So I'm gonna be continuing. I'll give you an update whenever I get further, because I'm only at chapter 10. Winter's point of view, page 178 or 179. So made a bit of a progress into this, so I'll be continuing, and I'll keep you updated when I have any more stuff that pops in bright. brain about the books. So I've made a ton of progress in Kill Switch. I'm now at page 502, chapter 28. I've read a lot and I didn't think I would read it that quickly. Normally my audiobooks are at a 1.5 speed, but this one I put it at 2 times speed and I can pick up everything and understand everything completely fine. I've been breezing through it a lot quicker than I normally do a lot of my audiobooks. I'm loving this book. I love how they go about doing time switches. Sometimes you'll be in present day and then a memory will pop in, and it's not hard at all understanding that you're going into a memory of theirs. It's very well developed and switched into the memory in the audiobook. In the book the text changes, but in the audiobook you don't see that the text changes, so the way it transitions into it being a memory is really good. And even whenever they start chapters, they tell you if it's 5 years ago or 7 years ago or 3 years ago, so you know what time point you're at. In the memories you get little tidbits of the stuff, like info through the previous books. You don't get all of the story because Banks is not Damon. Banks doesn't know 100% of what Damon went through, and so she knows a bit about it, but you don't fully get his story in Banks' story. So in this one you're getting everything and you're fully seeing Damon's thoughts through everything. I feel really bad for Winter with the entire memory of her going blind. And previously in the book, I feel like she was putting some blame on one of the characters, and as you get to see the memory as to finally understanding what happened to the full extent, she finally came to terms and was like, oh, it was not their fault. It just was bad timing and I was being protected or trying to be protected, and it was like a snowball effect. Alluded to it throughout the entire book, but you don't understand where or what fully happened and who was fully involved in the context of it. And with getting the memory, you're completely getting everything. So I really enjoyed the drama and the tension between all the characters and all the connections between one another. It's really interesting in this book, Winter being blind, but she was able to see when she was younger, so you get the memories of when she was super young and she was able to see, but now she doesn't see. And it's very interesting because even in the book it mentions sighted people not being able to understand what it's like to be fully blind, because when we just close our eyes to try to understand what it's like, we see black or we see red because of our eyelids. She doesn't see that. She doesn't see at all. She can imagine what she can remember from her past, but she doesn't see. And it's hard for even me to understand that because I'm sighted, because I can see, but it's really interesting trying to understand her point of just all the senses she's experiencing the world through in her brain. It's just really cool. I've never read a book before where the main character is blind, so it was just a brand new experience. I have about 80 pages left and there's a bonus scene. So shit's going down and I'm excited to see what happens and if somebody finally commits to doing something. So I'm really enjoying it. You just get to see how the entire situation between Winter and Damon went down throughout the years, and it's really interesting just seeing how it came about and how she didn't know it was him, and then it was revealed and she was just heartbroken and just stunned. So I'm really enjoying this. I do find it a little weird that Damon married Winter's sister to get close to Winter, because Winter's sister is the more agreeable one and will do whatever Damon wants her to do because she has had a crush on him, but Damon wants nothing to do with Winter's sister, but he's wanting everything to do with Winter. It's just an interesting dynamic between all of them, and even their mother. That's also very strange, but I'm really enjoying this book. I'm having an amazing time with it, but I think I'm gonna leave you on a cliffhanger for my final thoughts on this book. For the last 80 pages, I am gonna stop it here. So you're gonna have to go to my next reading vlog regarding my thoughts and feelings about Kill Switch. I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger, but I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I really appreciate you clicking on this video, taking your time out of your morning, your evening, your night, clicking on this video and watching it. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to check out more videos I create for y'all. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you watching it. Thank you so much.